Welcome to CX Labs, a digitally irresistible podcast brought to you by iQor. We cover the latest CX practices, including performance optimization, technology trends, employee experience, industry developments, and success factors to inspire great CX for your brand. And now, here's today's episode. Welcome to the Digitally Irresistible podcast, a CX Labs episode. I'm your host, Celeste Roberts. Joining me today is Jason Miles. Hey, Jason, welcome.
Hello, Celeste. Nice to be here.
It's nice to have you here. Jason, you are the Director of Active Learning and Development at iQor. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your career journey, and how you ended up at iQor?
Yeah, so I started at iQor as the Director of Active Learning Design and Development. And previous to that, I had a similar role, similar title at my previous employer. And so I came with that experience. And then prior to that, I had 20 years of experience in training facilitation, curriculum development, project management, instructional design. And my journey started out way back as an agent. So, just like most people in the BPO world, you start out as an agent and then you get an opportunity to become a trainer. So I was an expert agent, became a trainer, and then I started assisting with launching new program training. Then I got into working with instructional designers, and I just got into the point where I could actually start designing and developing training myself. And I learned from expert instructional designers. I like to think of them as learning scientists. They were some of the best in the industry. So I've had a great opportunity to work with hundreds of clients, hundreds of facilitators over the years, doing things in banking, technical support, telecom, healthcare, you name it, in the BPO world, we've probably touched it in design and development. So, and I think it's also one of my favorite parts about my job is that I get to work with such a great variety of people and such a great variety of topics. It's just a really exciting world and industry to be in. So I really do appreciate it.
Jason, let's begin with a review of what active learning is. Could you explain it?
Sure. So active learning is an instructional design approach that actively involves all learners in the learning process. So if you compare that to a traditional training where students kind of passively receive knowledge from an expert, active learning strategies kind of encourage engagement through a variety of activities. So an example would be that in traditional training, most of the training that we encounter deals with or is involved with PowerPoint presentations. So trainers use these PowerPoint presentations to kind of explain in theory what learners need to know and be able to do, but they don't get a whole lot of opportunities to practice and apply what they're learning. So with active learning, the role of the facilitator or the trainer becomes something different. Instead of being the sage on the stage and doing all the talking and showing and doing, the trainer becomes a facilitator, and they become more of a guide on the side. So they walk and help that learner through their journey of learning something new.
Oh, thank you for explaining that. Can you please explain the role of active learning in training iQor employees?
Yeah, so at iQor, our active learning approach is built on the idea that adults learn most effectively when they're given a set of meaningful tasks. So we support that with any necessary resources they need to complete those tasks. And then we give them the opportunity to practice. So they get to try, they get to fail, they get to learn from that experience, and then they get to try again. So we also like to include opportunities for questions and feedback from experts and peers, which isn't normally built into training. We build in time for reflection. And reflection is actually one of the most important things that we're adding, because very rarely do you get an opportunity in training to think about what you're learning. And that's where the actual learning happens. So it's extremely, extremely important.
Jason, can you share some of the results you've seen with active learning training?
Yeah, you bet. So our first active learning redesign with iQor was with a major retail customer. So we redesigned their training using our active learning approach. We also worked with their facilitators on using active learning techniques. And so during the pilot, one of our first big wins was the fact that we had 0 attrition and 100% certification and movement to production. Once they moved to production, we had some additional wins where this group had really consistent AHT improvement month over month. They had the highest FCR scores for the second and third months. This was the only group to hit a 95% CSAT goal ever in a month. And they had the highest NPS scores ever recorded across all tenure buckets. So they also had the most consistent incremental improvement month over month with regard to quality. So our active learning program is going to be a fantastic success. We rolled this out in late 2023. And our goal is to get all of our new facilitators, current and existing facilitators, and then new facilitators through our certification process. And again, we expect kind of the same results: increased throughput, increased speed of proficiency, and higher customer satisfaction. So the other thing I'd like to mention too is that we'll be rolling out our active learning design and development program. So this is another workshop, another certification program. This is specifically for training new content developers and instructional designers on designing content using an active learning approach. So that's what's coming up next.
Jason, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Digitally Irresistible, a CX Labs episode. Listeners, be sure to visit iQor.com/active learning contact center training. Those watching the video, the URL is scrolling right below. And for those of you listening on audio, be sure to check the show notes to get the link. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the Digitally Irresistible podcast on your favorite podcast player or on the iQor YouTube channel so you never miss a future episode.